Hello, everyone. Welcome to the funnest part of your Friday, I'm sure. We're just gonna give it another minute or so to let others join in, and then we will begin.
And I see that a lot of people's note takers are coming in. We are going to be recording this and sending this out. So if people don't mind, I'm just going to remove the note takers because you will get the recording anyway from us.
You can remove mine too. I
Okay.
forget that. I've got the auto setting.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I love that we're all so technically savvy.
So we'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll just go through our introductions and the agenda for this time together. I'm sure there will be many questions, so as they come up and they are fresh in your mind, feel free to use the chat, and we will be monitoring the chat to review for any questions that we can help answer. But the first portion of this will be just going over this new digital automated services tax, and what it is and how you might be affected. And then we will open up the room for the more formal, informal Q&A piece.
Awesome. See a lot of familiar faces here. Angela, good to see you. Janice, Holly, Rebecca, good to see you guys. Yeah, and the other thing, if I missed you saying this, Erin, is as we go through, if you can pop your questions into the chat. Did you say that already, Erin?
I did, but it's
Okay.
worth saying again. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, as people come in, pop them in the chat. We're going to monitor that as well. If we can answer it during the webinar while we're presenting, we will, if it makes sense. Otherwise, we're going to hold off until the end. I know there's going to be a lot of questions, and we're going to do our darndest to help answer them.
Yeah, and then on that note, interim guidance is still being sent out, so there may be things that we might not have the answer to, questions that you may have. Either Pam or myself will go to the actual guidance website to see if there have been any updates as of today on those questions. And if we don't have an answer, we will get back to you with hopefully more guidance. But since this is happening so quick, the state has said that they will continue issuing guidance. Right now, everything is interim, and not final.
Awesome. I
All
think
right.
we've got most. We're about 4 past the hour. If we want to do you want to get started, Erin?
All right, let's do it.
Let's
I'm
go.
going to share my screen. Okay. Okay, is this coming through?
It
Okay.
is.
All right. So thank you for joining us today. This is a Washington State tax update and Q&A session. It is live currently. However, we are recording this so others who were not able to attend may be able to access this very important information. So my name is Erin Pohan. I am the owner of Upkeeping, which is an accounting firm based here in Seattle, Washington. And we serve around 50 clients at this point, and we've been paying very special attention to this new tax update as it affects a lot of our clients. And so, with the many hours of research, I hope to help guide you through this new tax update. Pam, you want to introduce
Awesome.
yourself?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. Pam Greb. I am the owner of Cloud9 Financial. I am a bookkeeping and CFO advisory firm. We are a little bit more boutique with a smaller amount of client base that we serve, but we try to keep up on. And although we don't file IRS taxes, we do handle and take care of a lot of our clients' Washington state taxes. And so we thought this was really important to get out to our clients, our small business owners in the state, to help you try to understand a little bit more what in the heck is going on with Washington taxes for certain businesses. So with that, let's get it going.
Okay. So before we get into what's actually changing and into the deep dive of that, I think it's important to have this understanding of what the Washington business and occupation and excise tax looks like in general. So when you hear B and O, that stands for business and occupation, that piece of this filing is specifically a business tax expense, whereas the excise portion, also known as sales tax portion, is related to sales tax that you collect from your customers or your clients and then remit back to the state. So historically and through September 30th, on this Washington B&O and excise tax return, we have had categories. We've had three different categories: retail sales, service sales, and then wholesale sales. We're not going to cover wholesale sales today. We'll be talking more specifically about the retail and the service based. And historically, the retail sales are any sales related to actual retail products. As of the most recent years, digital products were included in this retail sales category. So, what that means in this chart itself is retail sales are subject to both B&O tax and also the excise tax or sales through tax. So B&O, again, is a business tax expense. You should have this portion on your profit and loss statements. This excise tax is a pass-through remittance, meaning you're collecting from your customers but remitting back to the state. And for retail, these are a yes on that filing return. Taxed on is you are taxed on your gross receipts, meaning the actual total amounts collected from your customers. So this differs from federal taxes, where you are taxed on your net, which is your revenue minus all the expenses took to make that revenue. Washington is based on your gross receipts, or the actual amount received from your clients or your customers. What's changing as of 10/1 is this big red yes. And what was not treated as a retail sale that needed sales tax collection prior to 10/1 were certain digital services, which Pam will cover in more detail. So this is what we will be covering today. Traditional services that do not fall into the categories Pam will go over will continue to be treated in the same manner as they have, which is yes to the B&O tax and no to any sales tax charge. So I'm going to move on to the next screen. And just a quick update on what is sales tax or excise tax. It's a sales tax, and who pays it. So because of our physical location nexus, meaning if you are a business owner and own a business within Washington state, if you have any customer or client in Washington subject to the retail sales tax, then you would pay that excise tax. And different states have different nexus limits, but our physical location in Washington state automatically makes us requires us to collect sales tax on Washington-based customers in the event we are actually selling retail products or digital products. And as of 10/1, any of those digital automated services. How much do I charge? Well, it depends on the zip code of the destination. We'll get more into the live presentation piece of this new DAS tax, but the destination is where the presentation is held. And if it's a virtual presentation, then it's based on the zip code of the destination.
So, Erin, we had a question related to this from Holly.
Yeah.
For sales tax, what do we need to do if some of our clients are out of state or out of country?
Yeah, so this is just you're collecting sales tax on Washington-based customers. So any out-of-state customer, you would not be collecting the sales tax portion on for Washington. However, you would want to monitor your sales in other states because each state has their economic nexus rules. What that means is there's a chart, and maybe we can include this in the email, Pam, where each state basically says once you reach this sale threshold or this amount of sales in our state, we want you to start collecting sales tax for our customers who reside within our state. So this is typically a really good problem for businesses who have expanded and grown in other states. However, it does take quite a bit to reach a lot of those thresholds. They're usually like $100,000 or 200 transactions or $100,000 and 2 transactions. I think if I remember, it was like 500,000 for California. So we'll include that list, but usually you'll know if you're very wildly successful in another state, if you should be looking into that other state's nexus.
And I did just pop the link to the Sales Tax Institute website, which shows a table of that. So you're right, California, if you did start selling up more than 500,000, then you would fall into their category of having to charge.
Yep.
Under that, you don't have to charge sales taxes.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so moving along, I'll let Pam take it from here.
Okay, so there was another question. We're going to get to the different variations of what counts for coaching in just a minute. So if you can hold off, Verla, we'll get to your question shortly. So who does this new service tax apply to for moving from service tax to a retail service tax? So the main categories, if you are an advertising service, if you provide or create custom software, or if you are a web developer doing custom website development, if you are an IT service, you would fall into this. The next one is a confusing one, and we're going to go into a little more detail about that, but it is if you offer any live presentations for sale. And that could be lots of different types of businesses, not just the ones that are listed here. So if you are a business that primarily sells live presentations, including virtual. So if you're doing a virtual webinar, like we're doing one today, but we're not charging, so we're not worried about sales tax in this case. Next is investigation, security businesses, armed car services are listed. So those are the types of businesses that need to pay attention to this, okay? There's another one, I think, if anyone is a temporary staffing service, this would apply to you as well. What's not included are things that fall under the professional services category. Okay, so for example, law firms are exempt from this because they are providing a professional service to their customers, to their Accountants. So us in the accountant community, we're sweating it out for a while when it wasn't clear whether or not we would have to charge sales tax to our clients. Luckily, we are exempt from this, so our clients won't have to pay extra every month. So lawyers, accountants, engineers. So if you provide engineering support, if you were hired as a contractor to do engineering work, architects are exempt, home appraisers or evaluators, any lobbyists. These are all considered professional services providers. Okay, so unless you are one of those providers, if you offer the services listed here, advertising, custom search software, web development, IT services, if you do live presentations, those will all apply to the new retail sales tax. One thing that I want to make everybody aware of is for those, if you do fall into this category where you have to start charging sales tax, there is a temporary reprieve for you if you have clients that are currently under contract, they have existing contracts with you, and you don't change your contract in through March 31st. So if your clients are under contract and that contract scope remains the same, you're delivering the same services at the same location, you are exempt from having to pay the sales tax on those services through March 31st. So you get about a 6-month reprieve on having to charge sales tax. So make sure that you are aware of who's under contract, what their scope is, and if you don't have to, don't change the scope until March 31st if you can hold off. Okay. Any questions on the general, who does this fall under? Let's see. Holly has a question about virtual presentations. How do we figure out taxing of destination? That is a wonderful question, one that is very confusing. So, for example, you charge someone to attend a 1 hour, 1 day presentation, you charge them $100, but it's open to anybody. So if those attendees are in Washington, then yes, the sales tax applies. If those attendees are out of state, then no, it wouldn't apply to Washington state. How do you figure it out? Well, this is going to mean that you're going to have to either implement some mechanism through your payment processor to make sure that you're tracking their addresses, right? Who is getting billed, right? What state is getting billed? That's going to help you track for economic nexus purposes and for sales tax in Washington state purposes. How do we determine if consulting is included in professional services? Examples, sales strategist consulting. So Holly, I know what your business is. So you would fall under, if it's one-on-one consulting, right? You're exempt because you would be a professional service. You're providing coaching, consulting, strategy. Your exception is live presentations, right? Let's see, LB, do I have to operate under a specific biz organization to qualify as professional services doing engineering? I guess I'd want to understand a little bit more what you mean. Like, are you working for a staffing company and you're being contracted out? If you want to come off of mute, that might help us kind of understand that a little bit better.
Yeah. Hi, Pam. It's Larry.
Hi, Larry.
So yeah, the question, if I'm doing my work through an out-of-state company, my company's reporting time to an out-of-state company is sending me, my billing,
Mhm.
and doing the deposits to the company here.
Yep.
How does that,
So you,
doing engineering
yep.
services, but yeah, how is that going to kind of work?
Yeah, so just to make sure I understand this right, and for everybody's clarification, you actually work for, let's call it an agency that shops you out to businesses for engineering consulting, right? Engineering consulting, one way or another, falls under professional services, so it wouldn't be a service that was taxed. So whether you are working for a staffing agency and they're paying you for their customer, right? Or the company that you are providing the engineering services for, either way, you would be exempt, is my understanding.
Yeah, and I would agree with that too. I think there are still traditional service offerings that do not fall under this latest guidance. So engineering would be one of them. And I know we have listed out these professional services that are exempt. These are the ones that they have specifically outlined because there were that many questions about those specific professional services that they made an FAQ and specifically listed these in the FAQ. I did put a link to that DOR page that is continuing to update on the daily with all of their interim guidance and the new language around this. But the piece that I also wanted to mention, and I think may help to answer the question that was asked a bit ago about coaching, is that coaching is still a traditional service. And so, with that, there might be aspects of coaching that could fall under this new guidance, specifically as it relates to the live presentations piece. And Pam, you can talk a bit more about that, but I wanted to just point that out as well.
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about live presentations, and I'm going to actually reference directly from the DOR website because that's, we're just here sharing our interpretation of how we understand it to be. We encourage you to definitely do your own research, have a conversation with the DOR. Ultimately, it's the DOR that's going to have the final say whether or not you should have been charging. And so you don't want to kind of get caught from behind, right? So in terms of live presentations, a live presentation is when the presenter or instructor are giving, receiving, and discussing information with one another, with your guests in real time, right? So not in a recording, right? That recording still falls under retail. That would have always been under retail. But if you're doing a live presentation over Zoom, in person, in real time, whether that the taxable live presentation being charged, so if you're charging a fee for that, then that would fall into the category for retail sales. So things to consider to help you determine if you are providing a live presentation or not, according to the DOR. If the purpose of the activity is to inform, explain, persuade, educate on a particular subject, if the structure of the activity is in the form of a seminar, a lecture, a workshop, a course, or any similar type event, if the activity allows for interaction with your participants in real time, although interaction or participation is not required, if it does allow it, then that would fall into it. And the activity must allow for more than one attendee. So this is for a group presentation where the group consists of more than one. One-on-one does not count as a live presentation. The let's see here. That's just yeah, I'm just kind of reviewing through, and these are just repeating the same sort of things. Is it educating? Are you selling? Are you doing a seminar? Is there more than one person? Can they interact? That is all considered a live presentation that should be taxed in if the end user, if the person on the presentation is in Washington State. Okay. Live presentations do not include classes by preschools, classes in continuing education courses provided by elementary or secondary schools, performances such as concerts, plays, musicals, comedy shows, and opera, no movies, no sporting events, no fundraising activities, no one-on-one interaction, that's not counted as a live presentation, such as tutoring, consulting, or music lessons. Professional services where the presentation is merely a part of delivering a broader service. So if you're a engineering consultant and you are presenting to your client on your results of what you're consulting on, you're fine. There's no taxes associated with that. If you did a pre-recorded presentation where the purchasers can buy and watch the recording of the live at a later time, those are considered and have always been considered retail sales anyway. So nothing changes in that. If you're recording and selling to a recording to someone, you would have to charge sales tax on that because it has always been considered retail. Other things that are not included in live is athletic and fitness activities that are classified under athletic fitness facility, recreation activities that are separately classified, and opportunity to dance, as these activities maintain their already specific tax classifications. So if those ring a bell, that's where you would go to look at where the exclusions are. Make sense?
There's another question regarding the rate that we charge for sales tax. Do you want me to cover that? I probably
Sure.
could have talked on that on the last slide. So,
Yep.
How much do I charge? The tax rates are determined by the zip code of the destination. And why we do that is because different localities have their own tax rates in Washington. So you would need to know where your customer or client is based in order to determine the correct sales tax rate to charge. So Washington State as a whole has a 6.5% sales tax rate. However, depending on what city or county the customer or client is based in, there's going to be an additional local rate attached to that. So for example, Pam and I are in Seattle. The combined rate of Washington and City of Seattle tax makes it 10.35%. So there is going to be some determination on your end and your part as to what rate to charge. I know the Department of Revenue has a sales tax rate lookup if you are invoicing your clients manually. There's also sales tax features within Stripe and Square and QuickBooks to help determine those rates as well at the point of sale.
Yep, and I just popped into the chat the DOR website, which has a link to the tax lookup rates. So you can always go there if you are manually doing invoicing. But like Erin said, typically the systems that you're using can be set up to automatically charge the correct rate based on the city that they're located in. So awesome.
All right, should I move on to the next one so we'll have some time for Q&A at the end? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what do I do? And we've alluded to some of this already, but you will want to audit your services to figure out which ones now fall under this new guidance and may be subject to tax starting October 1st Again, pay attention to any existing contracts for that 6-month grace period. Look at your contracts, see whether your customers will bear the tax or you will need to build it into pricing. The onus and historically it's always been on the customer to pay sales tax. So just ensure that if you need to charge sales tax, that it's being something included on your invoices to the customer for the customer to pay, and then for you to later remit on that B&O and excise tax filing to the state. You will want to update your accounting, billing, tax collection systems to flag taxable versus non-taxable services. Again, a lot of these payment processor platforms can help you with the sales tax rate determination. If you have live presentations and webinars, um, build in some type of questionnaire form if you are having to do any manual billing on your end, so that way the attendees can fill in their destination zip code, and they can that way you would know what sales tax to use with that sales tax rate lookup link Pam put in the chat. Again, and I don't know if we hit on this, if you are hosting a live in-person workshop, event, seminar, the destination of that live workshop, the sales tax rate of that live workshop is going to be where it is actually physically held. So I live in Washington, or I live in Seattle. I decide to host a paid live 1-day conference in Woodinville. I would need to charge sales tax on the Woodinville sales tax rate. Monitor DOR guidance. I know we put the link in the chat to the official guidance page. They are constantly updating this. They have said that they will continue to provide guidance as they have it available and ready. So please monitor that. They're adding FAQs in. They said all throughout September. I know it's September 26th, but Pam and I were looking at it today and we're like, oh, that changed. So just continue to monitor that. And then lastly, notify your clients. Give them as much heads up as you are able to. Even with the existing contracts, you might want to give them the heads up that, hey, this is changing. We have an existing contract in place. As long as we don't change anything on this contract, we have a grace period through March of next year. However, please be aware, beginning April 2026, we will need to start charging sales tax on this contract. All right, with that, we leave the floor open for Q&A.
Awesome. And I think both Erin and I have been answering some of the questions in the chat. So if our answers are still not clear in the chat, please feel free to speak up.
So I see a question here. When I hear excise tax, I think of the B&O tax I file monthly. Is the new sales tax also being called an excise tax? Does your graphic say excise, not sales tax? So excise and sales tax are the same thing. So I try to make it more clear by saying sales tax, but B&O and excise tax are two different taxes. And if we go back to this screen here, we have B&O and we have excise. B&O is the business tax. So if you have only been a service-based business, you're filing a B&O tax with the state. Once you become subject to retail or excise tax, once you become subject to retail sales is when you also begin to file the excise tax portion of this filing. So it's one return. It's the B&O portion first, and then depending on whether you state that you have had retail sales or this new digital automated sales, is when you would be triggered to also enter the excise tax portion of this tax. So you log into the Department of Revenue, and if you've only been filing your monthly, quarterly, or annual B&O return, and now you are subject to this new digital automated services tax, you would report that under, I don't know yet if the DOR will have a separate line item that will say digital automated services, or if they will expect you to report it under retail sales. That has not been determined yet. We will find out next month once it's added. But you will want to begin reporting those separate from your traditional service sales on that B&O portion. Once you report that separately, then it will trigger the excise tax part of that return.
So there's a little, it's sort of a semantics thing here with the excise tax, because I just looked up Erin on the website. So when the state says you have to file your excise taxes, I think they put B&O and sales tax both under the category of excise tax, but they're just two separate taxes. One for the business tax that you owe that can be deducted as an expense, and one for the sales tax, which a lot of us call the excise tax, which is the sales tax. But
yeah.
Technically, I think they're both excise taxes just lumped together, but there's two separate parts of it on the filing, Larry, and I can connect with you as well. But you shouldn't fall into these categories anyway, Larry. But should that change, happy to help.
Janice asks, what about a group coaching session? No, because it is a professional service. So if it is a one-to-many presentation, the state is now determining that sales tax should be collected on any of those Washington-based attendees. Trying to see. No problem. Any other questions?
We recognize how darn confusing this all is. It's certainly confusing for us as we're helping our clients as well. So hopefully this was able to shed a little bit more clarity for everybody, and didn't raise more questions than answers here. But if we don't know an answer, we are happy to look it up for you guys.
Yeah, and to someone's point where this was pretty high level, I encourage you to just click on the links on that webpage. I'll put it in again, just in case we lost it in the chat. But for example, like the advertising piece, I know there's a lot of questions on, well, which one of my advertising services actually would qualify under this? And so if you click on the link I just put in the chat, there's an advertising services interim guidance statement that the DOR has put out, and it gives specific examples of different services provided under advertising and which ones may or may not actually be subject to this new digital automated services tax. Any other questions?
I've got one other quick one. What about technical writing? Things like doing newsletters for companies, putting together, I guess, helping out with advertising campaigns, things like that.
Good question.
So your services, Larry, are consulting services to the client, but part of those consulting services, and correct me if I'm not understanding this correctly, might be writing newsletters that are paid newsletters. Are you getting paid for those newsletters?
I'm not doing any of this
Okay.
yet, but
Yep.
it had come across one time as an opportunity of you could help people like Starbucks. They're going to put out monthly internal newsletters and stuff. Someone has to develop those. If it's someone else doing that,
Got
if
it.
they're farming that out, is that something, or technical briefs and things like that? I don't want to muddy the waters, so just kind of keep it
Yeah.
for now. But
My
yeah,
my best guess at that, Larry, is that you're still providing professional services to those businesses and getting paid for your time to do the professional services. You're not getting paid to sell those newsletters to the individual recipients of the newsletters.
yeah, that sounds right.
So I would venture to say that that wouldn't count in that particular situation where you're consulting to a company to do tasks for them. If you, as a business owner, were selling a newsletter to your clients individually, right? Say you have 10 clients, they want to buy access to your newsletter, then that would be considered retail because you are selling a digital product.
I see. Okay. But if
Yep.
it was all bespoke for a customer in their particular environment, like inside of internal communications, inside Starbucks, internal communications, inside Costco for internal distribution, that sort of thing.
That's my gut feel.
It's kind of falls into that professional services.
Yeah.
I see.
And you can also submit to the DOR. I can't remember what's the name of it, but essentially a ruling. You can ask them for
the
a
letter
ruling. Yep. So here is the website for rulemaking. Listed below is the annual rulemaking agenda. I'm not sure that's it, but you can request a ruling for your particular business so that then you have in writing from the DOR what the final say was.
And do they publish a list of the ones they've already rendered?
Well, if you look at the list that I just sent out, the link that I just sent out, this is the semi-annual rulemaking agenda and activity. So looks like there are some in here that you may be able to read about. Yeah. So these are a listing of people that submitted requests. For example, Marketplace Tax Collection and Reporting by Adam Halliday. You can look at the filing and the hearing information to see what are the types of things that people are getting rulings on.
Another question came through, and this one is one that I think we need more clarity around as well. But what about a networking membership group that has monthly dues and hosts events? So I was thinking about that with a networking group. Pam and I are a part of CEO Society. So they have $35 or whatever the membership fee is for the month. And with that membership fee, it does include usually one monthly workshop, one co-working session, a quarterly soiree, a party. And so when I was looking up guidance for a local chamber that hosts a luncheon that has a live presenter, the guidance that I found was that you would have to try and target what part of that ticket fee is related to the live presentation versus the lunch that's provided, and it was very in the weeds and more complicated and complex than I would have liked to go back and tell that local chamber. um, on that note, with this networking group, I think it would be important to follow along with this, maybe submit a letter ruling, because maybe you would need to have some kind of clear statement that the purpose of the networking group is not to collect funds for live presentations. maybe the Department of Revenue would be able to give you the language needed to ensure if there's a way for it to not be subject to tax, that you have it documented within the networking membership entity itself. So I don't
Yeah.
know off the top of my head. Pam, do you agree with that avenue?
I do. It's a little blurry,
Yeah.
right? And so the organization itself, so for example, whatever group you're part of, like the CEO Society or something that you pay a monthly membership for, they would need to decide how to structure their billing, right? Is it going to be bundled versus line itemed? Like your membership fees are this, we provide live presentations, and this portion of it is for live presentations, which that would be taxable, and the membership dues would not be. So it's kind of up to the business to, the Department of Revenue has said that when taxable and non-taxable items are bundled, the taxable portion needs to get broken out, or the whole amount would be subject to tax. So if you're not breaking it out and you are providing those things, then it sounds like you may have to tax the entire membership. Yuck.
Yeah, I agree.
So if it's membership only with no workshops, then there wouldn't be sales taxes. If it's membership bundled with live workshops, it's likely that a sales tax would be applied at least to the workshop portion, and however it's invoiced out or broken out on for payment, yeah, kind of becomes a small business owner nightmare from a tracking perspective. Apparently, there's not a lot of small business owners that work for the DOR and understand what we're all going to have to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any
this is
other
the one that
questions?
worries me the most, is the live presentation one for people.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's really tricky when you're offering a one-to-many webinar and you need to individually tax the attendees based on their location. So, yeah, like I said, and like Pam has said, everything so far is interim guidance. This is still developing, and although they had listening sessions back in July, that's not to say that what Pam and I are saying today, September 26th, won't change based on the feedback and the filing of the business owners here in Washington State.
Michelle mentioned that the wave ticket will be subject. Yeah, so
Yeah,
buy your
yeah.
ticket
Even if
now.
you look at my website, like you'll see, I host a conference for women in accounting. And so on the actual website, it says, as of 10/1, prices are going up to this amount to accommodate for this new tax in effect. But yeah. So get your ticket, Michelle, if you haven't.
Love it. Everybody on board and know exactly what they're going to do now? And certainly, if there's no more questions, we don't have to keep you the whole time here, but Erin and I are certainly always available to help in any way we can. And so I think on the screen here, she's got both of our email addresses.
Yep.
Feel free to reach out to either one of us. Happy to help guide you in any way we can.
That's right. Yeah. And thank you for making time today to just get yourselves ready. I mean, I've heard it that knowledge is power from a good mentor of mine. And so if you know of any business owner who has not heard about this or may need this guidance, we are going to put out the recording of the session. Please feel free to share it with them. And yeah, wishing you all so much success in your businesses and navigating all the changes.
Absolutely. Thank you all for coming. I think we can wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, I ended my meeting recording. You may want to
Okay.
end the Zoom